A-levels are finally over, and with another year past us and another round of soul-crushing standardized testing in the bag, we're going to look back at the essay questions from this year's GP paper, and we're going to ask our wonderful GP tutors what question they would do if they were the ones in the hot seat and which ones they would avoid. Let's start with Mr. Fong. Which question would you do? Which question would you avoid?
I think I would gravitate more towards question 1. I think that's a function of just my background. And also it's quite a fun question to do because deterrence related questions all the time. It links to governance, which is probably the idea of control, the idea of state control over individuals. And these individuals are seemingly deserving of some form of punishment. And you get to sort of decide the limits of that. So I think I would gravitate more towards 1. Avoid, I would generally avoid 3, but that's, I think, again, based on my personal, I guess in this case, lack of preference. I have no idea as to how theatre is done well or badly, or for that matter, at all. So I probably have no subject matter knowledge on 3. So that was like my first reaction to the paper, actually.
Yeah, that's a fair reason to avoid a question.
Yes.
Don't know it, don't do it.
Yeah.
And next, let's ask Ms. Ng, what question would you do and what question would you avoid, like Karen told you?
Well, his idea of fun is very macabre. So that was actually the question that I wouldn't have done. This whole idea of people being imprisoned for crimes and whether they should lose their rights. They're already in prison, so then that becomes a consideration that you actually need to talk about. The one that I really would like to do would be the one Fong doesn't want to do. So let me help you with that a little bit.
Thank you.
Live performances. Go to the theatre, why don't you? So whether or not drama on TV and film, it can never be as effective as live performances. I think the important thing to understand with this is what live performances are. So it's actually very, very esoteric knowledge, and you actually would have had to go to live theatre, which is why Mr. Fong, the common person on the street who doesn't know anything except for law, can't do it.
I think to be precise, you have to go to the theatre and stay awake.
Yes, and not snore.
Okay, cool. I'm actually gonna back up Fong because I would also not do the question.
You're about to be in prison.
But my reason for not doing that question is actually very different from Fong's reason. Maybe I'm just trying to be, like a contrarian because everyone expects me to do the film question because I'm like the film guy. But even though I have like specialized knowledge in like technical knowledge in film and TV, I still wouldn't do that question because I think the issue isn't that interesting. Like I feel, because yes, it's an effectiveness question, but it's not really focusing on how effective film or TV or theater are at doing a specific thing. It's just how effective are they, which I guess makes it more flexible, like gives you more flexibility, but at the same time, it also kind of makes the question a bit
less technical.
Yeah, it seems a bit meaningless to me. It's just like which is better. It's a comparison question, effectiveness question, which is better. The question I would do is probably going to be a very popular one among students as well. It's, does religion still have a role in the modern world? The reason I want to do that question is because, well, religion is always an interesting topic, but the question is both a value question and also an impact question, because it's about the value of religion in the context of the modern world and also the impact of modernity on the role of religion, how that has changed. And there are very few things in history that are as well documented as religion in how it has been through the ages, right? And so to explore the impact of how the world has changed and how that has changed our perception and how relevant religion is, I think is very interesting. And moving on, I want to ask Mr. Lim, because I think you might have a different view than me on the religion question, right? Yeah.
Okay, I personally think religion is a topic that is straightforward. Straightforward in terms of the phrasing of the question. Okay, this is a value, like what Mr. Ivan mentioned, is the word still is important. Our students need to do comparison, think they need to like know their past and present. So I think that religion, this question is quite, for those who are prepared, they must be prepared for this topic. And I think that this is not a topic that everybody will be well versed. So if you know you are conversant with religion, you can write passionately about this topic. Now, personally, I feel like a religion, you can talk about the political role of religion in today's world, like how it can be exploited as a political instrument for parties to actually garner mass support during the elections. And I think this will be something that our students, if they are well prepared, they are well read, they will be able to write something that will be more exciting, something that will not be all the students will be writing.
And what question would you not do, Mr. Lin?
I will avoid 7.
Okay.
Because 7, scientific research, I'm very dead sure almost all JCs, this will be a popular question. If you are not well prepared, you are spotting topics, I'm very sure all students will learn science and technology. But if you scrutinize the question carefully, this is not the typical pros and cons kind of question.
Yeah, it's more complicated than it seems, right?
It's an interesting question to actually think about, right? So the arguments behind it, where we are looking at things like if you had information about, let's say, a vaccine that there was some side effects, but if you didn't allow this vaccine to be released, right, and then so many people really need the vaccine, you would hold that information back. And governments and whoever, they have to make that kind of decision, right? But because it's for the greater good, then you wouldn't make that kind of information available to everyone.
It's also kind of like an economics question sneaked into there as well, right? There's kind of an argument about inequality and like
because of the idea of everyone, right?
Like capitalism and communism. Should it be available to everyone, like communists would say, but
I actually think it's more of a society question than a science and tech question. That's the danger to the science and tech students, because most of the time when we learn science and tech, of course we learn it maybe in the context of like let's say global hunger, we learn it in that context, right? But that you can't write you can only write one paragraph on it. I mean, there's not even a paragraph, there's an example in that essay. So most science and tech students probably don't prioritize things like inclusivity, equality, egalitarianism. They won't sort of imagine this as a possibility. So when I saw it, I still check with my science and tech students, like, you choose this question, and when they say no, there's some relief on my part, because
is there worse topics discussed?
If you write it as a typical science and tech question, then as Mr. Lim said, you will run into some problems. You won't really be answering the question.
I have to pray very hard for such students to get question 7.
Is religion still relevant today? Yes.
Okay, so we found something we can all agree on. We all think question 7 is
I don't know, Mr. Ten hasn't said
Ten.
anything.
Oh yes,
so.
Mr. Ten, you've been uncharacteristically non-verbal today.
No, I
What?
need to change my favorite question.
So which question would you do? Were you gonna say 7?
No.
Okay.
I was going to choose the question 5 on individuals shaping their own lives, which I thought might have come up more, but got kind of neglected by us. The reason I think it's kind of interesting is because the instruction demands us to ask whether we have the ability, the possibility to do what it takes to take control of our own lives, which is a very in principle, in theory kind of question, right? Not about whether in practice we are actually exercising this, are actually doing it, or whether the conditions exist for us to do so. And to begin with, the question on it just by itself is an open-ended one, right? It's something that we as a species hasn't really come to an answer to. The whole debate about determinism, free will, personal responsibility, how much is that a thing? Those are unresolved. And then they added in the complication to say the world is so unpredictable, right? And how does that change our ability to shape our own lives, right? So if I am to agree that I can shape my own life, I need to factor in the idea that in spite of the unpredictability, I'm somehow able to do so. And if I disagree, I don't think I can shape my own life, again, I'll need to bring in the idea of unpredictability, right? To say that it's because of the tumultuous conditions, and that is why I'm not able to do so, which gives me, I think, a lot to think about, a lot to write about.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that when I saw this question. It's kind of like a sneaky little meta physics question about
Right.
like free
Yeah.
will and
Yeah,
determinism. All right. And what question would you avoid?
everything else.
Everything else.
But also,
No.
I think specifically question 11.
Math?
The one about, math being of little interest because it's too complex. Mostly because I'm not interested in math because it's too complex. So
I think
would-
that's the case for all of us, right? That we have very little interest in math because
Yeah,
it's
which is
too
why we're
complex,
here.
which is why we are
in
GE
this department.
teachers.
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that's all from us for today. Have a good school holidays. You've earned it. All right. Bye-bye.
You guys can decide.
Oh.
You guys count and then clap.
1, 2, 3.